And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Copyright 2.0 show. My name is Jonathan Bailey. As we can see from the cute little bottom third below, I am from the site Plagiarism Today, which can be found at plagiarismtoday.com. And joining me, as usual, is a man who comes from a room that was decorated by the painter of Green Eggs and Ham, attorney Evan Sherris. Evan, how are you doing?
I was looking forward to your original quips there, John. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I should advise everyone before we forget, Evan is not here to dispense legal advice, though he will drop some knowledge bombs. Please do not take it as legal advice.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got it, John. Please, of course, please don't take anything I say as legal advice, just general commentary. And,
and if you want legal advice from Evan Sherris, pay the man.
Pay the man.
Pay the man. That's what I'm saying. Pay the man.
Man. So today we have, I'm going to jump the gun on you and for you guys, I'm doing my own plug. My incredible group, the Heartless Romantics, are playing a show tomorrow night at the Jury House Lounge in Washington, D.C. So I know that.
Where is this for the people who aren't familiar with it?
It's a Florida and 10th Avenue Northeast.
All right, and that's in the good part of town. He just assured me this before we went live.
In the bad part of town.
Oh, it's in the bad part. Okay, but still, you brave it to go see Evan if you're in the D.C. area. I've seen his music. He's got a YouTube channel. He does awesome stuff. You should check him out. Seriously, guys. But yeah, so that's really cool. Really excited to hear how that goes for you. You guys have been gigging for a while.
Yeah, we've been together for about a year and a half now. You know, we all work, so we don't get a ton of time to practice. But you know, when we do come together, I think.
You know, I once founded a band called 999 Megabytes. Yeah, but we haven't gotten any gigs yet. Oh, that look of pain. All right. On that note, we should probably get away from jokes and into something.
Yeah, just listen to the audio version. That was a face palm.
Yes, that was. I think that you heard from Evan's line was a face palm. I think it was audible. Oh man, I apologize. It's Halloween season, haunt season, so I might be a little bit loopy from all of the extra work. Everyone knows as a lot of you probably know, I work and operate a haunted attraction here in New Orleans the final 3 days of Halloween season, and also I do haunted house reviews of the other attractions that are way better than my crappy little home charity haunted attraction. So you know, it's a busy time, probably the busiest time of year hands down, but still lots of fun. Yeah, so we got a lot of copyright. We have a lot of copyright. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, John.
I was going to say we have a lot of copyright news this week. A lot of big stuff happened.
Yeah, it was a fun week. You know, some stories to talk about.
I will warn people that since we pushed the recording of this back, technically there's a news story we're kind of deliberately skipping, which involves the Batmobile. But we'll come back to that next time because we have to have something to talk about next week, guys. And there's still a lot of analysis being done on that. But we do have the big happy birthday ruling. Evan, will you be singing happy birthday at your gig tomorrow night?
You know what? We may just do that now. We're in the clear with the likelihood of litigation.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I mean, it's such a difficult song to learn. It's like, what, all of 6 notes and 5 words? I mean, I don't know if you got time. I just don't know if you and your band have enough time to get it together. But anyways, we also have a tongue-wagging photo at the center of a fair use and copyright dispute. Rick Ross loses a legal claim against LMFAO over Every Day I'm Shuffling. The police officer from the Village People triumphs in his battle, and again in his battle over copyright termination in his music. Ben Carson steps into a copyright kerfuffle involving Cafe Press. Fox News is in a, Fox News. Fox Sports is apparently underpaying for music licenses, at least according to one composer. We haven't really heard their side of it yet. We have more news in the Georgia copyright fight over the legal code. Joss Whedon in the Cabin in the Woods lawsuit, one I know you want to talk about. And finally, Kim Dotcom's extradition hearing is underway. So that's a lot to go over. We should probably jump in pretty quickly here.
Yeah, let's jump in.
All right, so happy birthday. Not anyone's birthday. Is it your birthday, Evan? I don't know. Mine's not.
My birthday is in May. I'm a Gemini.
Okay, I'm a Leo, so yeah, I'm a ways off. But anyways, if you're like everyone else on the pretty much on the planet, you've heard the song "Happy Birthday to You" and all 5 of its words and all 6 of its notes. And we're surprised at some point to learn that it is still copyright protected and that Warner Chappell Music was earning supposedly up to $2 million per year in royalties.
Yeah.
Off the song.
They were collecting 6 figures. I think this is one of these copyright stories or phenomenons that people love to talk about when they're kind of detract from copyright law. They're like, "Oh, come on, we can't sing this."
Yeah. What the hell? Why does Bukas have to have that terrible Happy Birthday song? It really is terrible.
Yeah, and so I think
it's terrible.
As a pro-copyright individual, I'm happy to have this story kind of put to bed.
Yeah, me too. Because it's one of those things where if you talk to people like in the know about copyright, it's kind of been an open secret that the song probably actually is public domain, or that it would not actually withstand a court test.
I think a lot of people thought that once people really dug through it, they would come to that conclusion, and that's not exactly what's happened here. The court hasn't ruled that it's in the public domain.
Well, yeah.
A court has ruled that the people who have claimed copyright ownership cannot trace their ownership back to any legitimate copyright registration or claim.
Yeah.
There's no evidence that Summy, which is the original company that claimed to have ownership over the song, actually owned the song.
Yeah, and this is one of those moments where history just kind of, stuff may be lost to history, basically what I'm trying to say here. Right. Because the Warner Chappell claim passes through a bunch of hands, if you go back through the sands of time, all the way back to a 1935 publication. And a publication of an arrangement of the song. And supposedly that was like the earliest that was available type thing of it. Well, there's no evidence that original publisher had the rights transferred to it by the Hill Sisters or anyone else, any other intermediary. It's basically we can't trace it back from there further. And without that evidence, there's no reason to believe that that publication represents anything more than, the publication of that particular arrangement of the song.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're stuck at. We can't prove that anyone has the copyright to it. The question's left effectively open. But the problem is with copyright registrations and whatnot being what they were, going back into this era, it's unlikely that anyone has completed all of the required keep-ups and so forth that were necessary to maintain your copyright in a work before then. So it didn't necessarily rule it to be in the public domain, but unless there's something drastic that happens that shows that someone else maintained these rights properly, it functionally is.
Right, but of course, legal accuracy is important.
Yeah, of course, I agree completely.
When you're reporting what the courts are saying or not saying, you got to be accurate. And so if we're going to talk copyright, we can't really justify saying that it's in the public domain when we can't say that, as a matter of fact. For all intents and purposes, for all practical purposes, the rights of the floodgates are open for anyone who wants to.
Absolutely, yeah. And, but then again, you could have a situation like what happened with the movie It's a Wonderful Life. You remember that whole thing?
I don't.
Okay, It's a Wonderful Life. One of the supposedly the best known public domain stories of all time, because the people who made the movie let the rights go. They basically didn't do the renewals, lapsed in the public domain. And then suddenly everyone's like, hey, free stuff to show at Christmas. And so like every network aired like 24 hours of It's a Wonderful Life because no one wanted to bother making stuff for Christmas. But then someone woke up and realized that, wait a minute, the guy who wrote the compositions for the music in the film actually had preserved his copyright. And so the copyright and the music remained intact, and wheeling that back real fast there. So you could have a situation like where it's a free-for-all, but then someone else comes forward and has it, but that seems a little less likely in this.
Of course, yeah, when you have multimedia where you have multiple compositions. You've got, your filmography, and then you've got the music, and then you've got potentially songs that are contained within it. It's a little bit less. It's a little bit riskier, actually.
Exactly.
All of this is playable, but in this case, when we only have one piece of media, which is the lyrics.
Yeah, and
many people actually don't know was the only issue here at stake.
That was interesting.
Because the party agreed that the melody was in the public domain.
Yeah, and because that came from an earlier song written by the same women called "Good Morning to All," because apparently they knew one melody, and that was it. And they just made new words go to it.
And John, we talked about this before the show. If there's no copyright claim in the melody, then what we're left with is the lyrics.
Yeah, and
we've talked multiple times, and we will continue to talk even today about the concept of short phrases being ineligible for copyright.
It's literally "Happy Birthday to You" plus the word "dear" later on, plus the name, and that's your words. It's 6 words.
It's literally 6 words with 3 lines repeated, and then the name in between. That kind of doesn't pass the smell test, in my opinion. So it's very strange to think about this particular set of lyrics and the dollar amount that they were able to pull in with it. It's kind of a little bit of it blows your mind a little bit.
Yeah, and it's bizarre to me that it's lasted as long as it has. And one of the reasons is, yes, licensing "Happy Birthday to You" cost money, but it still costs significantly less than duking it out in court.
Right.
A $1,000 license would not even get you in the door in most attorneys' offices for this type of case.
Right.
Like, oh, 1,000, no, you're gonna leave. Security, get this riffraff out of here, type moment. It's not going to even get you started. So it was always easier to license it. And one of the things about this case that was fairly ingenious was, rather than trying to sue for themselves, they sued as a class, trying to make this a class action case, seeking repayment for the royalties for the last 3 years. Statute of limitations, folks, it's a thing. Repayment for those royalties. And at that point, it became a little more viable as a lawsuit to at least push it forward to this point. Now, I don't know if they're going to get their, royalty repayments and all that, but they've at least secured this decision.
Well, from what I've read, the plaintiffs are now going to attempt to certify as a class and sue for repayment of licensing fees that go back 30, 40 years from... and they can even go farther than that, but I believe the plaintiffs at this point are only going to go back to 85. I think this might be an evidentiary issue, but we've talked a few times about how much money these guys have made, so this is a pretty penny we're talking about.
Yeah, if they're able to take it back, my understanding originally was they had targeted only a few years due to statute of limitations, but if they seem to have gotten around those, which you would seem to indicate, then yeah, going back decades, we could be talking hundreds of millions of dollars pretty trivially. I mean, that's some pretty big numbers there. But yeah, basically they've ruled that the Warner Chappell copyright on it is invalid, and for all intents and purposes, it's a free-for-all now. It may not be public domain in the most literal sense of the word, but functionally, for your purpose, wanting to sing it in your restaurant or your movie or whatever, Godspeed, good sir, is what it comes down to. And please, restaurants, be aware of this ruling and stop making up crappy alternatives. Just go for it now, okay? I'm looking at you, every restaurant that has ever had a birthday celebration I've been in.
You're talking to the Chili's of the world, I see.
Chili's, the Applebee's, the TGI Fridays, everybody, all those casual dining places. Please pay attention to this ruling. Make the change.
Are those less annoying than Happy Birthday, or more annoying? I find them all equally, it's kind of an equal opportunity.
Okay. The thing about this, Happy Birthday to You is short.
Touche.
It is short. It is 4 lines long. Like the one at Buffa's, they have it. If you've ever been to a Buca di Beppo's Italian restaurant, they actually have the damn thing printed on the placemat so you can sing along if you feel like hanging yourself later. It's like 20 lines long on the placemat printed for you to sing along. So yeah, Happy Birthday is short. Yes, it's annoying, but it's short over a much less, but it's annoying over a much shorter period of time. So yeah, just use Happy Birthday, quit being creative. And if you still want to make up your own, please just make it short. And by the way, I love the version of this I chose because there were like literally thousands of versions of the story I could have put in the show notes. I linked to the Los Angeles Times in the show notes. They actually have a photo of it. And yeah, it shows good morning to all, actually, or it says good morning and birthday song is what it says.
Okay, well, in any case, we talked about the story too long.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But I just love the fact that it has 3 sets of lyrics. One for teacher, one for good morning to teacher, one for good morning to children, and one for happy birthday.
So let's move on to the Miami Heat.
Tongue wagging. Tongue wagging.
So as far as I understand it, a minority owner of the Miami Heat attempted to stop a detractor of his, a woman who ran a blog, from posting, from having this photograph of him with his tongue out on her blog. That's the underlying facts. That's what you need to know.
Yeah.
And so already you should be like, okay,
what the hell?
You know, first of all, there shouldn't really be a way to do that, right? Is that if you want to talk badly about somebody, that should kind of be your writing, and unless you're lying about them.
Yeah, unless it's like libelous or something, then you had a whole separate bag of it. Yeah.
And so the case started with defamation. It didn't work because this woman was not maliciously going after him, and there's a higher standard for public figures in which he was, according to the court.
Yeah, his name is Ronan Katz, I believe is how you pronounce his first name. And in addition to being a minority owner of the Miami Heat, he is, and more relevant to why he's being badmouthed, he is a major real estate developer in the area. So,
right. This woman was going after him, and he was determined to be a public figure. And in Florida, when it comes to defamation, there's a high standard for what you would have to say in order to be liable for defamation. It has to do with your intent behind what you're saying. So if you say something that was just negligently incorrect, if it's about a public figure, it's hard to be liable for doing that.
Yeah.
When it comes to public figures, you have to really show either recklessness or intentional defamation, intentional lying about them. And so that didn't work for him because whatever she had said, it was either true or only
opinion or just not
exactly
not malicious enough.
Exactly, correct. So
he had an aha moment.
He had an aha moment. He found out that she had gotten this photo from a Google search. So the gentleman found the photograph. Turns out that it was taken by an Israeli newspaper, and he bought the photograph.
The rights to it, yeah.
Yeah, bought the rights to the photograph.
Yeah.
So he initially filed then under copyright to try to get this photograph taken down. And so he actually scored an initial victory. He got an injunction to get it taken down, but that was quickly overturned. And the district court found that this was fair use. This photograph was emblematic of the way she felt about him. She felt that this photograph was his insides on the outside, ugly on the inside, she claimed. And so the district court, came to the conclusion that a reasonable juror, of course this is on summary judgment, a reasonable juror could only come to one conclusion. This was fair use and not copyright infringement. And an appeals court confirmed that, and there's a few reasons why. So first of all, there's no monetary loss or economic damages for the photograph.
No.
So when you're talking about fair use, you go into these equitable considerations. Is that, okay, you own the copyright to it. Did this infringement actually affect you? And if he just went to buy the photograph to have her take it down, he wasn't selling this. He's not an artist trying to sell this.
And that speaks to the harm to the market for the work, the potential market for the work.
Exactly.
If the potential market for the work is there is no market, I'm shutting it down and removing it from all the places, well, then there's no harm. I mean, if your literal intent, if your little market is nothing, then there's no harm.
Right. That's what they said, is that there's literally no market. And so that's one of these equitable considerations, which isn't exactly named in the 4 fair use factors. But as you kind of look at more fair use analysis, you kind of see that courts interpret the nature of the use to kind of figure out if there's a market that is taken away. They also look at the purpose of the use, which is commentary and criticism, which is basically one of the ways that the fair use doctrine acts as the First Amendment's kind of sentinel within copyright law. Yeah. This sort of use is protected, and so really is a great case that demonstrates that fair use is the First Amendment's built-in sentinel for copyright law.
I agree.
And yeah, they took these factors together and they said basically this is, very clearly fair use. We don't like that you purchased this picture just to have someone else who's a detractor of yours, sued and have her take down the picture. And they awarded her $150,000 in legal fees.
Yeah, we hear all the time about so-and-so's using copyright just for censorship or whatever, to silence critics, and rarely that's actually what's going on. Sometimes yes, but rarely is that the case. Here is a bona fide, on its face case of someone taking a copyright and trying to use it to censor an opinion they don't like. It's really as cut and dry as you can get. And the courts do not look kindly upon that. And as we've seen time and time again, when the courts do not look kindly upon what you're doing, they are going to find reasons and ways to stop it. Even if they have to go hunting. And I don't think they had to go hunting in this case, but if they have to go hunting, they will go hunting.
They will.
They will, trust me. So yeah, this was just a situation where he bought the photo for the intent of shutting down what otherwise would be a complete, was otherwise, obviously not too horribly infringing, because the original photographer never filed a takedown notice or took any action against it. And also not something that the courts felt you should be able to do, use the copyright to censor people who say things you don't like.
Yeah, the court 100% got this.
Yeah, I think the court got it right. I support the court on this one. I'm a copyright guy, but I'm a free speech guy too, I think the court was right.
I don't think you would find any reasonable pro-copyright individual who thinks that...
No, I agree.
Somebody should, as we've said a few times here, have the right to have a photo taken down because it's your detractor who's using it. And maybe that's an explicit reason to be sued, but, the courts... That's why courts see evidence. They don't just see one part of the story. You have to see the whole part of the story and they come to the right conclusion.
Yeah, and imagine though if he had succeeded and then politicians discovered you could do this, the floodgates would have opened and terror would have reigned on the internet in the next election cycle. It would have been pretty ugly pretty quickly.
Very ugly. I agree.
Okay, well, Rick Ross. This is a bizarre lawsuit. As I'm pretty sure most people know, Rick Ross is the man behind the famous song "Hustlin'," in which he said, "Every day I'm hustling." And LMFAO, the sort of parody-ish band, they were all a bit tongue-in-cheek, created Party Rock Anthem, which had their take on it, which is "Every day I'm shuffling." Well, Rick Ross tried to sue them for copyright infringement. And that didn't go so well for him, it appears.
It did not.
It did not. The court has ruled that "every day I'm hustling," basically a 3-word phrase, does not qualify for copyright. But really, I should have put this up with a Happy Birthday lawsuit in hindsight. If I had known where the dialogue was going to go, and if I'd had prediction, I would have put these two side by side. But it goes back to that short phrase copyrightability. But just in case that point didn't drive it home, they also said that even if it did qualify for copyright protection, the changes that LMFAO made were also adequate to avoid copyright infringement as well, changing hustling to shuffling, meaning 1/3 of it was completely different.
Yeah.
And the whole meaning was realistically different too.
Keep in mind that we're not talking about a song against another song.
Yeah.
These are individual lyrics that come from that song against other songs.
Yeah.
And so we have a claim for a copyright interest in the 3-word sentence.
Yeah, and
We've talked about this times before. 99 times out of 10, which apparently maybe the Happy Birthday song being the 100th, that's going to fail.
Yeah. Unless your three words are like the most creative like you'd probably have to invent 3 words.
Inventing 3 words might be the way to get there. So,
I think I know one that I think I know a 4-word phrase that might be copyright protectable. I think I just thought of one.
Right. So,
Trachuna McCoides Senesatus D. The spell from Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'm just going to nod and say.
You've never seen the movie Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, have you?
So
this is my childhood here, people. I mean,
Rick Ross tweeted on 2 counts, basically. He said that the songs, Every Day I'm Hustling, infringed his copyright in his Every Day I'm Hustling.
Mm-hmm.
And that the merchandise that they ended up launching, LMFAO launched a very successful line that had the words "Every Day I'm Hustling." That both of those.
Rhythm Shuffling was theirs, yeah.
Yeah, but both of those were allegedly copyright infringement, and basically the court said is that listen, copyright protection does not automatically extend to every component of a copyrighted work. Your songs are copyrighted, Rick Ross, but when we end up doing the analysis for infringement, we don't take every individual piece and then find if there's been a reproduction of those pieces an infringement. You have to take away the uncopyrightable material, and little parts of your work are not copyrightable. It's the whole that becomes copyrightable.
Yeah.
Those words and short phrases, we don't concern ourselves with those. Words that contain a lot of ordinary phrases can be copyrightable, but only as a whole, as a collection, as an arrangement. And so, your songs are protectable, but as an abstract, those lines aren't, and they issue basically summary judgment against him.
Yeah.
I found it also interesting that beyond the short phrase issue, they're like, listen, you didn't create the words "Every Day I'm Hustling" or "Every Day I'm Shuffling." We can go back 20, 30 years and find poems, songs that use those 3 words. So to claim that you created those 3 words together is also kind of insulting to the courts. You didn't that's a part of, copyright. Not only does it have to be sufficiently creative, but it has to be of your creation. It has to be original to you. And there's no evidence of that.
Yeah. And it was a very bizarre argument. I see this a fair amount. One of the things I do is I do expert witness testimony in copyright infringement cases, especially with text works. Where I will analyze text works and try to determine how much volume we're talking about is copied from A to B. And you'll see cases, even if you give me 2 completely unrelated works, you'll see short passages that are identical between them.
Of course, because we all
it's like 10,000 words that are commonly used in English language, and of those, it's like a logarithmic curve. The more common, are way up there. So of course that's going to happen, and you can't look and go, aha, there's 2 4-word passages that overlap. Plagiarism and/or copyright infringement. That's not how this works.
Not how it works.
And even if it is based upon Every Day I'm Hustling, which it almost certainly is, that doesn't make it copyright infringement either, because the part they took is so small, is what you would refer to as de minimis, I believe. Right.
There's 2 different ways that you can approach it. You can approach it from a de minimis perspective, that we actually didn't take enough of your work for it to be even, worth the court's time, or you kind of take it, and that would be kind of looking at it from, okay, it is copyrightable, but you didn't take enough. Or you can look at it from kind of the front end here, which is that yes, it's copyrightable, but not only as a whole, or maybe even it's copyrightable if someone takes 3 sentences of yours, but your individual words are not your property.
And yeah, so and to be clear here, the level of creativity required for something to be copyrightable is very low, but it is a little higher than 3 words.
It's higher than 3 words.
It's higher than 3 words.
So let's move on to the YMCA. The Village People.
Victor Willis from the Village People, better known as the police officer.
Better known.
Great photo of him here on the Chicago Union Tribune. I love that photo of him. You will never see a more happy face as long as you live. You should check out the show notes on this one. Yeah, he had sued previously his apparently two publishers and record labels seeking copyright termination. As we discussed many times before, copyright law allows original creators to terminate any transfers or exclusive license grants that they made after a certain number of years. And Willis's time was coming for many of the songs that made the Village People popular, including the mega hit, as they call it, YMCA, but also, I'm sure, many others that he was co-author on. And he fought not only to have the copyrights transfer back to him, where he could probably negotiate better deals going forward, but also to have another producer, Henry Belolo, I believe is how you say his name, taken off the writing credit, saying he was not actually an author of it, therefore expanding the percentage share of the other writers. He fought a long, hard-pitched legal battle, won on everything, but apparently spent quite a lot of money doing so.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. And
he asked for attorney's fees, which is something that is very common in copyright cases because the statute is pretty liberal. It kind of leaves it in the discretion of the judges as to when they should be awarded. And he said that, listen, I filed these motions. I won. All the evidence, as it turns out, was strong. It was in my favor. But, you know, the defendant just filed excessive motions after I issued these termination requests. And, you know, the judge looked at it, and he agreed. And he awarded about $500,000 in attorney's fees.
Yeah, and we were talking about the Happy Birthday lawsuit and how $1,000 doesn't get you in the door.
Does not.
Here you go. Here's your proof.
$1 million won't get you in the door here.
Yeah.
You know, of course, this is 33 songs, so maybe that's why the attorney's fees were a little bit higher, but it just goes to show that, you know, if you have a defendant with deep pockets, they can just file excessive motions, which are on the gray side of, you know, ethical practice, and you can end up racking up your fees, but that is a very dangerous game to be playing in a copyright lawsuit because you lose.
And this goes to why I always say half of litigation is more than half of litigation is negotiation, because in reality, if both sides are working in their own best interests, they're probably trying to find some kind of settlement very quickly because of that.
Yeah, you know what? In a perfect world, that's what would happen, but
it doesn't always happen. You're right.
Bad blood boils very quickly in litigation.
Yeah, there are some people with bad blood and deep pockets who will fight these things out to the bitter end and rack up some very huge legal fees. And you know, they say that sometimes the people that win legal cases are the attorneys. Sometimes that's true, but also it looks like Willis won in this case because he got his fees paid for.
He did get his fees paid for, and you know, attorney's fees in copyright cases is a very interesting part of the law. There's lots written about it. It's different in different circuits. It's very liberal. The one overriding connection is that it's really an equitable consideration.
Yeah.
Which is that a judge will basically balance the right and wrong here and say that, okay, maybe these motions were all excessive. They weren't necessary. This was a clear case of one side being on the right side of the law and the other one fighting the nail on the wrong side of the law. And so...
And the judge will also look at things like what reasonable settlement offers were made and turned down, et cetera, as considering it.
It's really, that's the thing about equitable considerations. They can really go in any direction. It could, you know, it could be an analysis of, like I was saying, who is on the right side of the law. It could be an analysis of who made a good faith effort to get this done with early. Was there, like you said, a reasonable settlement offer early on by one party? Was one other party rejecting that offer, or not even listening, or rejecting it outright without even considering it? You can kind of look at how much time it's taken. They can really look at anything. And so I think that brings us, John, unless you have anything else to say.
Well, I was just going to say, we saw this in a weird way with the Beastie Boys. Remember, they got their attorney's fees reduced because they had the Cadillac representation when they should have had the Honda Civic. So it can get weird.
Right. That was something that I think I took issue with.
Yeah, you did. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. Please.
So, the quick story here. Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon running for the Republican president.
Separated Siamese twins.
He did. He's, I believe, #2 in the polls right now, so this is a serious candidate.
Yeah.
But allegedly, he's not a big fan of his fans promoting him.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what's going on. If you're not familiar with the site Cafe Press, it's a site where you or anyone else on the planet pretty much can upload images and have them printed on buttons and t-shirts and make little stores for other people to buy them too. Was a popular thing like in the early 2000s. I don't know how it's still around, honestly. But anyways, long story short is apparently some people have been making unofficial Ben Carson merchandise and selling it on the site. And Ben Carson sent a letter to Cafe Press demanding that they stop, basically. Yeah.
I'm of two minds on this. I do understand that if there's, an organization that's making money off of your name and you're running a political campaign and you really need that money, then you file. But at the same time, you're going to stop those people who are purchasing it through these avenues from getting your gear and promoting your political brand. So yeah, they can always get it from your site, but shouldn't your first priority be to allow anyone and everyone to get your name from wherever and just win the race as a result? So I don't know. Maybe this is strong IP, but bad politics?
Yeah, I always say you've got to be especially careful when you go to war with your fans. And I think that's doubly or triply true if you're in politics.
Right. But let's not say conclusively that he's going after his fans.
Yeah.
These could just be entrepreneurial opportunists who are seeking to capitalize on his popularity and who just want the money. So
yeah. And it could be.
I don't know if these are his fans or not that are trying to get his name out or not.
It really could be. You could be absolutely right.
Not for your fans, but I don't think we can conclusively say that these people are his fans.
But and that being said, he's claiming copyright infringement for some of them, which seems kind of peculiar. Because to me, this seems more like a trademark or a publicity issue than
I mean, we've talked about short phrases, of course, being uncopyrightable, but when it's a graphic, it can easily be a copyright issue.
Obviously, for that. But
as a picture, it becomes eligible for copyright, even though it's just a word. If there's some sort of artistic design behind the font, and it's the craftsmanship or the penmanship rather behind the particular way someone wrote Ben Carson.
But looking at the merchandise examples they give in this article in U.S. News, it's like Carson 16s, like the word Carson and number 16 are like a jersey or a Breaking Bad style Ben Carson logo where the N is the nitrogen symbol and stuff like that. So it feels more trademarky, but there are obviously some copyright issues too, as you pointed out, when you're using logos and graphics and things like that.
It's very clear both. Obviously, consumer confusion from where the source of this, because anyone who's buying it will likely believe that it's coming from Ben Carson's camp. And then if all of a sudden they're, particularly poor quality shirts, or they're made out of iron, or they're really itchy, they don't like that, so someone's gonna
they poison little babies or something. Exactly. It would be bad.
Not the type of association that Ben Carson will want, and therefore that's the policy reason, anyways, behind trademark rights being implicated here. But then there's also copyright because, as we've mentioned, the bar to copyright is very low, and so when it comes to pictures and graphics and fonts, you can usually give word if it's done in like you said, the N from the periodic table 2016 altogether, that becomes a pictorial work. It becomes a picture. It becomes something that you could protect and copyright.
Yeah. Well, shifting focus to Fox News. I'm hearing myself reflected back.
Are you still?
Not anymore. Yes, I am actually. Sorry.
I haven't changed anything, John.
I think we had a blip with Hangouts. So I'm not sure how to handle this.
Well, we could relaunch.
Yeah, we can move on. I can plow through this.
Okay.
So if anyone wants, I don't know if it's going to show up in this video or not. Those main things. But anyways, Fox Sports. A music composer is complaining that Fox Sports is doing everything it can to underpay on royalties it owes composers' music.
John?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Do you want me to jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please. So, very strange. I've said that a few times today.
Yeah.
So Dayon Davis is claiming that Fox basically is using his music, that it's not tracking how often he's using his music, and that he's not paying him according to their agreement. He had an agreement with them back in 2007. It basically started with, hey, I'm going to do some stuff for you. You can use it for free for a bit, but if you really like my stuff, then we would really like you to eventually start paying for it, which is obviously very strange, but it worked out for him because in 2011, Davis signed an official agreement to license some of his work to Fox, and under the agreement, he got $1,000 up front, and then would eventually get payments through various performing rights organizations, and that is where Davis begins. Fox misconduct began. He says that Fox repeatedly failed to pay him the proper licensing fees. That So that they did not account as to how often they were using his fees, and that they were paying him less than they agreed to pay him.
It's kind of a double-sided thing here, because he's on one hand arguing that they're paying less than what they agreed, but on the other hand, not only are they not accounting, but they've made it impossible to account for how many times the song's been played.
Right, and that's a serious allegation that they're intentionally not tracking what they're using it. So they're like, oh, well, we have to, do some work on it. And well, he's like, hello, you need to have a system.
Yeah.
If you don't have one, then that's just, willful copyright infringement, a willful breach of contract.
Yeah,
and so
this is 101 stuff for a TV network.
Yeah, seems like 101 stuff. Track what you use when it's other people's intellectual property. Otherwise, you're going to get sued, and that seems to be the case here. And he's entitled, as the agreement outlines, to $500 per song used in a program, $300 per song used in a promo, and $1,500 per song if they use that promo for 8 or more days. So it seems like, as he alleges, he's in for a big payday because Fox initially counted in their first accounting to him 73 uses. So, that's going to come up to something in the $50,000 to $75,000 range if we're using the figures that I just cited. But allegedly, he did some research and went with some performing rights organizations figures, which said that his stuff was used over 800 times. So we're talking big.
TV eyes had a role in that.
I really have no idea.
I have no idea either. It seems like something they would do.
Sorry, are you still hearing yourself?
Yeah, I am. Actually.
Isn't that frustrating? That happened once with us, and it's impossible to talk.
It is. What I'm doing is when I'm talking, I'm muting my internal audio.
All right. Well, I'll try to take the lead here as we go through.
Yeah, we've only got a few more stories. We're on the home
stretch. We are on the home stretch here. The state code in Georgia case.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Please.
We talked about this one last month, in which Georgia has its state laws annotated and then claims copyright over those annotations. So it releases basically just its state laws, and that's available online through LexisNexis for anyone to view for free. But it also releases those laws that are the official code with annotations, analysis from third parties, and yeah, well, that's basically it. So they charge for access to this, and so basically they sued people who are basically publishing these annotations, and now there's a countersuit now which is saying, hey, this is public domain law, you can't copyright this, and so you have this issue is is a state capable of copyrighting, you know, annotations of their laws, or should annotations be available for free? You know, in my opinion, it's very uncontroversial to have a copyright over the selection, arrangement, and coordination of uncopyrightable material, which is the laws. But this annotation, what it does is that it takes the laws, puts it into various understandable categories, adds annotation, adds analysis. So, you know, especially if the annotations are online for free, I don't see why you shouldn't have the right to make some money off of this work that's been done to organize the laws in an accessible way and add, you know, an attorney general's point of view on it, or, you know, a third-party lawyer's point of view on it. I don't see this as controversial, and I think that this is copyrightable material.
Yes, and considering that the state of Georgia, and states in general, it's a situation where they are a copyright holder in that. Like I said, the federal government cannot hold copyright in order to create anything. That's just the way it works. The federal government, or done by a federal employee, part of their job is copyright protect, is public domain. However, individual states do not have that rule. So yes, it does sound to me like the state of Georgia does have the ability to claim copyright in this work. So my question is this: we were talking today about the countersuit filed by this Carl Malamud guy. My question is, what exactly is he suing for? Is he suing saying it should be public domain, or that it's not? I understand Georgia's suit, but I don't know if I get the.
Sorry, John, you broke up there at the end.
Yeah, I was just saying I don't know if I understand the countersuit. I understand why Georgia's suit. But not the first one. What's his?
You know what? I didn't actually read
and I couldn't find it when I searched for it previously.
Yeah, so I would understand why you're skeptical about that, right? Because if he's going to claim that it's not copyrightable, why not just claim that kind of as a
defense?
Right, as a defense, is that, well, this is not a copyrightable material. You know, that's probably up to his attorneys there. I can't really speak to that.
Okay, it's fair enough.
You know,
I can't. Why you attorneys don't have like a telepath to communicate with each other?
No, we don't. You know, and you know what? If you do want to know that, John,
that's Krypton.
I'll look up it, and I'll try to find his complaint for our next show.
Yeah, but
yes, that's the kind of thing that if you really would like to know, John, send me a quick email before we tape. And then I will.
I didn't think of it until just now.
That's okay.
Josh Whedon. Oh, sorry. Do you have something else in the previous case?
No, I got nothing else. What's your? I'd be curious to your opinion on it.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Like I said, it's really difficult hearing your voice echoed back.
Do you
want to think, much less speak? And I don't know what's going on. I tried resetting my sound device, and that didn't help either. So my apologies if it shows up in the video. If it doesn't, I apologize. I sound like a crazy person, and that's fine too. Yeah, basically, Joss Whedon was sued by an author, Peter Gallagher, the author from the actor in the OC, the rap quick to point out to us. But Gallagher claimed that there were just too many similarities between Whedon's work and Gallagher's work for them to be to not be an infringement. He even made claims of how the work was accessed and a bunch of other things. The judge ruled, in short, that they were not similar.
I'm going to jump in here just with, I've got some notes here on some of the details in case the listeners want to know.
Sorry.
So he was sued in 2012 for about $10 million, claiming that his novel, The Little White Trip, A Night in the Pines, shared the premise of young people being murdered in the woods and then a third party's being involved. So he claimed that, yeah, this is one of the funny parts, is that, as we mentioned before, access to work is a big part in showing infringement. You need substantial similarity and access. And so he said that the access was because he sold his book, which was not a bestseller by any means. on Venice Beach Boardwalk at the Santa Monica Third Steel Promenade, which, of course, the producers would have purchased if they had ever been there. So a little bit silly.
When in your life you passed by a guy selling a book on a promenade and not buying a copy?
Right, and he also, man, in his complaint, this was just a complaint, by the way. This was dismissed, which was a very interesting procedural point that I'd like to talk about in a second.
Okay.
So he also alleged that several producers contacted him with interest in the book, but never actually connected the producers that contacted him to the defendants that he sued. So those are his, factual allegations. So what ended up happening here is that the claim was dismissed, not on summary judgment, but on motion to dismiss, which is the very first thing that you can do when you receive a complaint. Now, normally, when you're evaluating a complaint, basically a judge looks over the complaint and he accepts everything as true. And if everything that this person is saying is true, if all of that adds up to a legitimate cause of action, which means that you've proven all of the elements of what you're alleging happened, so you're proving all the elements of copyright infringement, or you're proving all the elements of battery, or whatever it is you're suing for, if all those things are true, then you would win. So, however, that's not what happened here, is that they looked to the four corners of the complaint and they said, hey, wait. Normally, while we kind of only do that, and in which case, he did allege copyright infringement, we also kind of sometimes look at as to whether things are plausible on their face. And in copyright infringement cases in particular, where the court can take judicial notice of the works at issue, which means that the judicial notice is a concept that you can either submit something to the court, or the court itself can kind of take a look at something and say, this is true. Things that the court can take judicial notice of are that the sky is blue.
It is?
Yes. So you cannot allege in a complaint that the sky is purple and then survive a motion to dismiss, because even though it's generally not the job of the court to look into the truth of the complaints until summary judgment, where people can kind of show evidence, or trial where people are going to show evidence of that, a court can take judicial notice and kind of come to a factual conclusion about things if they're just clearly the case, like, the sky is blue. So in a copyright infringement case, basically what this court said that they were able to do, and they did, was that we're going to take these two pieces, and if it's so clear that there's no substantial similarity between them, really as a matter of law, dismissal of the case here is proper, and that's what they did, and they can even dismiss them with prejudice, which means that you basically can't refile most of the time when a complaint is dismissed. It's dismissed without prejudice because there's some sort of deficiency in the complaint, and that's why it's being dismissed. In this case, there's like, hey, there's nothing that you can do about it. We've taken judicial notice of these two works. There's no evidence that you can bring to us that's going to change our minds because we have the two works in front of us. There's nothing you can do that's going to change our minds about this. These are just too different for us to proceed any forward. And basically the plaintiff did argue against this, said that, this has to be treated as a summary judgment if you're going to go look beyond the complaint. And the basically judge smacked that down and said, we don't have to, first of all, because you didn't cite any authority to that statement. But second of all, since both matters are already before the court, both pieces of authorship are before us, there's nothing that you could really do to make us change our mind. They went through what's called the extrinsic and intrinsic test the Ninth Circuit uses. And they said that it fails the extrinsic test, which is basically testing plots and themes and dialogues and mood and setting and pace. All those things that are kind of extrinsically testable. And they said that, yeah, they're just not close enough. One is about, did you see The Cabin in the Woods? One is about basically teens brought in, and yes, of course, they end up getting murdered, but it's a whole take on the ancient ones being these old gods and these third party in a control room kind of making sure that they're murdered in the right order as to appease these ancient ones, while The book
was
was about
kind of a lampoon in a weird way.
Yeah, the book was about them going into the woods, but the murders were staged by a film production crew as to create $1 million movie. So like they were just different, and so they took judicial notice of that and they dismissed the complaint.
Yeah. Which we talk all the time about summary judgment versus motion to dismiss in these cases. We very rarely see copyright cases thrown out on emotion.
Almost never, because all you have to do in a complaint is basically allege something that amounts to a copyright infringement. So just saying, this is what happened, this was my copyrighted material, they took it, this is how they accessed it. You know, and they don't really look to the truth or the veracity of the claims. That happens on a summary judgment where, you know, people have the chance to submit evidence, and then they end up kind of looking to the weight of that evidence. But here, it is very rare to see it dismissed, so early. So it just goes to show that maybe there are some avenues for when a copyright infringement lawsuit is just clearly ridiculous.
Yeah, like for example, I can make the claim that Evan Sherris here totally copied my entire website and sold copies of it on the Santa Boulevard Pier at a little stand. And theoretically, it survived a motion to dismiss, but no way, hell, I'm getting past the summary judgment.
Right, and in some circuits, you're not going to get past the motion to dismiss, because if you file a complaint that says that my novel, Evan's, Night at Karaoke, is the copyright infringement of your novel, John's Day, talking to the Pope. It's like, what? Like, they're clearly different. We're not letting this go any farther. We have copies of the works. I am looking at them right now. They're completely different. Go away.
Yeah. Well, finally, Kim Dotcom. And I mean finally, Kim Dotcom in multiple ways. We have been waiting now for nearly 4 years for this hearing. Kim Dotcom and his cohorts were arrested in January 2012 in New Zealand over allegations of criminal copyright infringement and other acts involving the site mega upload. The U.S. government very much badly would like to extradite Kim Dotcom to the United States. Kim Dotcom is false, and for over 3.5 years we've had delay after delay in this hearing. And it finally began this week with the prosecution starting to lay out its case in a hearing that's expected to last, I'm not kidding, 3 weeks.
It's unbelievable.
A 3-week hearing. A hearing.
Oh, that's a long hearing, but I mean, this is a very serious matter. Extradition from one country to another, it should never be taken lightly.
I agree. I'm glad it's taken seriously. But 3 weeks.
Lots of time for us to update everybody as this hearing proceeds.
You know what? I would not be surprised if Tom stands up halfway. You know what? Just send me there. I'm tired of this hearing. I am done.
You know what? He's been fighting it for 3.5 or 4 years, so I have to respectfully disagree.
I don't think he was prepared for the slog at his cord.
Well, the good news is that if he does get extradited, maybe there's a chance that you and I could do a live taping.
Oh God. That would be interesting. What court would he be in?
I don't. I think, was it New York where they actually filed the case, the criminal copyright case?
Sounds right. Sounds like a thing. Yeah, but
well, and that brings us to the end of the show. And we're going to end this one mercifully because of John's unfortunate technical glitch.
Yeah,
I will be probably taking his part, which is, of course, I'll see you guys next time. But I will also give him, as he usually gives me, any last words, John?
I've got nothing.
Sorry. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week, and we will see you guys next time.
Okay.